Hello and welcome back to Blue Flag Bandits, the series that drives F1's worst cars since 2010, so you don't have to, in the desperate hunt for points, and you join us after a Hungarian Grand Prix that was pretty desperate, pretty dismal, pretty atrocious. We only qualified 23rd, we finished 23rd, trying to read mixed conditions, which didn't really work out for us, just had no pace, even when we did manage to get ahead of our fellow backmarker cars, which was, a stretch in itself. We only just managed to hold them back, but it all kind of came tumbling down. Didn't run the tyres long enough to be able to just move straight to the as the intermediate stint was so short, and as soon as it got too wet, that was it. We had no grip. We were off. We were hitting walls. We ended up following Della Rosa in and getting stuck in the pit lane. We just about beat Timo Glock, and that was it. It was a pretty terrible day for Red Bull as well, so at least it's not just me. But that means in the standings we remain 14th, but now a point ahead of Nico Hülkenberg, 9 behind Kamui Kobayashi. But De Resta scored some points, so moves a bit closer. At the top end of things, though, there's a 1-point gap between Alonso and Lewis Hamilton, but a little bit further back, Webber there in 4th, trying to reclaim that title. Not going well at the moment, but Vettel now 91 points off of Alonso. His title defence is almost done, I think, at this point of the season, around 12. Grosjean pulled just ahead of Raikkonen, who's still trying to recover from a poor start to his year. Rosberg is 8th ahead of Massa and Maldonado. Then it's Perez, Kobayashi, there we are, ahead of Hulk. De Resta, Ricciardo, Verne and Senna, the last of our point scorers. Kovalainen, Della Rosa, Glock, Peak, Petrov and Kartikeyan, who shows up in the post-race driver stand-ins. All yet to score. Obviously, Kartikeyan won't. He's not going to be getting in the HRT at all this year. In the Constructors, it is a 70-point gap between McLaren and Ferrari, with Red Bull a bit further back. It looks like we might have a new name on our Constructors Champion Hall of Fame for this series, though Red Bull could still easily pull it back to the end. Lotus are in 4th ahead of Mercedes, and it's Sauber, Williams, Force India. We're 4 points behind Force India, but now only 7 ahead of Toro Rosso, who picked up another point through Jean-Eric Verne in the last round. Caterham and Marussia, no points, and don't look close to getting any. And kind of want to just put Hungary out of my mind. If I'm honest, it was pretty dismal, and we struggled, but it's done. From here, we've got Belgium and Italy, which are probably slightly easier tracks to drive, although possibly range are in the race here. And then it's off to our flyaway: Singapore, Japan, Korea, India, Brazil, Abu Dhabi, and the debut for the circuit of the Americas 2012, the first US Grand Prix since Indy 2006, I think. 06, yeah? Maybe 07? Anyway, it's the first Grand Prix in America since Indianapolis was dropped from the calendar in the mid-noughties. So that's going to be fun to get our head around. But it's Spa today, and a circuit we all know and love, a circuit that is rightly lauded as one of the best. One that has sort of been kind to us. One of the few places where, up to this season, we've always got into Q2 at least. Here in Italy, the last 2 remaining circuits, we've done that, because China and Germany were the only other ones that we got out of Q1, and both China and Germany, we didn't manage it this time around. So, are we going to see ourselves get into Q2 for the first time in 2012 to keep up the run here at Spa? It's going to be tough, so we better go and get some practice in. As we do, we'll talk about the real world 2012 Belgian Grand Prix. Spa-Francorchamps was the venue for the 12th round of the 2012 championship, and Fernando Alonso came into this round still holding the championship lead, this time by 40 points ahead of Mark Webber. Michael Schumacher would also celebrate his 300th race start at the site of his first way back in 1991. As is often the case at Spa. Rain played its part in the first practice session. Kobayashi, Maldonado, Ricciardo, Webber and Button all span at Becom, though some drivers only completed limited running. It'd be Kobayashi who topped the timesheets ahead of Maldonado and Ricciardo. The second practice session was also beset by torrential rain, meaning only 18 drivers left their pits and only 10 set lap times. It'd be Charles Pic in the Marussia who topped the timesheets, the first time either he or Marussia topped a session in Formula 1. The final practice session was held in dry conditions, everyone scrambling to get some representative running. Alonso had set the fastest time in the final practice session ahead of Raikkonen and Perez. Sauber would look strong, Kobayashi also taking fourth ahead of the Red Bulls. Rosberg would have a poor session though, his gearbox failing early on, hampering his already limited running. The issues in practice would see Rosberg join the usual backmarkers in the Q1 drop zone, the German struggling throughout the session after his severe lack of running. Hulkenberg felt that he was impeded by eventual session topper Maldonado, with the FIA investigating after qualifying and issuing the Venezuelan a 3-place grid drop. The second part of qualifying would see the shock exits of both Vettel and Schumacher. Vettel struggling with the balance of his Red Bull and unable to jump Maldonado, who only just made it into Q3. It would be Jenson Button who'd take pole, his first for McLaren and his first since the 2009 Monaco Grand Prix when he was driving for Brawn. Sauber, who'd been impressive all weekend, saw Kobayashi take his best qualifying result by taking second place ahead of Maldonado, though of course the Venezuelan would drop to 6th with his penalty. As the drivers lined up on the grid, Kobayashi's Sauber was smoking and overheating, which was an ominous sign, but worse was yet to come. Maldonado jumped the start from 6th, startling the drivers around him. Grosjean was one of those drivers, veering across to the right of the circuit on the run down to La Source. The Lotus moving across pushed Hamilton onto the grass, which led to the McLaren locking up and losing control. He hit Grosjean, which forced the Lotus into the Sauber of Sergio Perez. The Lotus then also vaulted the Ferrari of Fernando Alonso while Kobayashi was forced wide, hitting Alonso while he was being hit by Hamilton. Maldonado was also hit by Perez in all the melee that ensued. Only Kobayashi and Maldonado would drive away from the incident, though Maldonado would only last until lap 3. The safety car would be called out while the incident was cleared. Alonso briefly being seen stationary in his car, but he'd walk away with a slightly injured shoulder and mild shock. This incident also somewhat starting the conversation about further safety improvements that we later really need to have a more serious think about in Formula 1. The accident at La Source, coupled with a few others from the course of the season, would see Romain Grosjean receive a 1-race ban for the Italian Grand Prix. When the safety car pulled in at the end of lap 4, Kovalainen was running 10th for Caterham, but he'd make a mistake into La Source on the restart, spinning and falling to the back of the field. But would pull away, aided by high tyre drag for Raikkonen, who fell behind Hulkenberg and then Schumacher as he struggled with both tyre temperatures and degradation. The Finn would have to pit early, dropping him out of the rally for a strong result. Red Bull had initially lost out after the incident at Turn 1, but Vettel stormed through the field to move to third when Kimi pitted, battling with his idol Michael Schumacher for second. Vettel made a move on lap 19 at the bus stop chicane. Schumacher defended well, but darted across the track to enter the pits, almost taking Vettel out in the process. There would be an investigation after the race, but Schumacher was cleared of any wrongdoing. During the pit stops, Kovalainen and Webber were released into the paths of Karthikeyan and Massa respectively, though only Caterham would receive any form of punishment, receiving a fine for the unsafe release. After the stops, Schumacher would find himself leading a train of cars, but the 7-time champion defended astutely lap after lap until a recovering Kimi Räikkönen would get past him, eventually opening the floodgates as the Mercedes lost 6th gear and had to pit for fresh tyres in the end. Jenson Button would, however, cruise to victory unchallenged, leading home Vettel and Räikkönen, who completed the podium. Nico Hülkenberg, who'd been strong all weekend, would take 4th ahead of Massa, Webber, Schumacher, Vergne, Ricciardo and Di Resta, who would take the rest of the points.
You seem to be losing a lot of time in Sector 2.
What can we hope for in Belgium? Well, Hungary was atrocious, there's no denying that, so we need to really bounce back at Spa. This is a circuit that shouldn't massively suit us, with both the Kemmel Straight and the run through Blanchimont/Corps Paul Frere all the way up to the bus stop being flat out. We may have to pull some time back through the middle of the lap. I think I really need to aim to get back to beating the other back markers here, just so we can get back on track, because we've really had a pretty dismal mid-season. So, let's aim for 19th place, but try to push for maybe just a little bit more.
We know it's going to be a struggle to get out of this session, but give it your best shot.
In the garage then for qualifying in Belgium, and 19th in practice as normal. This car really does lack pace, and obviously if you think about the Kemmel Straight and the run from Stavelot through Blanchimont up to the bus stop, that's where all the time is getting lost, I think. I'm certainly of the opinion at this point that we're not going to get into Q2 at all in 2012, but we're going to go out there, we're going to give it our best shot, so let's see what we can do here in qualifying. Let's take a look at our fastest lap in qualifying. Already up on some of the other new team cars as we go really tight through the source there, just about avoiding the barrier on the inside. So we've already got ourselves a pretty decent banker lap as we head up towards Eau Rouge and Radion. This is one of the few places where the DRS is enforceably turned off, so we have to make sure we get straight back on the second we get out of Radion to Kemmel Straight. Try and use the McLaren for a little bit of slipstream, he's moving far too slowly, just about avoid it. As we get to the end of the Kemmel Straight into Les Combes, nearly just over 3/10 of a second up, but still quite the distance off Maldonado up ahead. Through Malmedy and down towards Bruxelles, the hairpin. Always difficult to get this right, there's a weird bump on the way in, but we managed to swing the car back in as we head into X. Take a huge amount of curb there, don't unsettle the car too much as we head on down towards Pouon. Been struggling to get it turned in here all weekend, but on this lap it actually worked out quite nicely. Did have to lift off a little bit though, and we bounce off the curb on the way out. You can see we're slipping down the order now as we come into the chicane here. But once again, just trying to keep it away from the curbs, try not to unsettle the car too much as we head to Stavelot and the end of the second sector. Keep it well within bounds here, and we're nearly 9/10 of a second up, but 2.1 off Webber at the top. So we know it's an uphill struggle already. Then it's just the run all the way through Blanchimont up towards the bus stop. Absolutely flat out, but we have to just back off with DRS there to make sure that we don't spin the car as we get towards the bus stop. Nice and heavy on the brakes, trying to keep it nice and tight. Run a little wide through the first part, which compromises our exit through the second. But we gun it for the line. Is this lap going to be good enough?
You're down to 9th place.
Another qualifying session comes to an end in Q1 and 21st. Just here in Hungary have not been good to me in qualifying, although I think we did have pace to beat at least Glock and Kovalainen, but we didn't manage it. You can see though, 4 seconds off the pace of the leaders, about 3 and a bit seconds off Paul Di Resta, nearly 4 seconds off Jean-Eric Vergne anyway, so we weren't getting into Q2, but Paul Di Resta, the man that drops out with us, alongside Glock, Kovalainen, De La Rosa, Peak and Petrov. And for the second race running, we're going to be starting behind some of our fellow backmarker cars. Just couldn't hook up a lap. Was actually quicker, I think, in the first sector on a couple of occasions. got done by Fernando Alonso in my final lap, just being slow in front of me, and for some reason just couldn't pick up the pace in the middle sector. Seemed to lose time there. But you can see that, unlike Hungary, we're a little bit closer to the guys around us, so hopefully we can have a better race of it. Let's cross over to the race, see what we can do from outside the top 20. In the garage then for the Belgian Grand Prix of 2012, we start 21st, and there's a 100% chance of rain. I don't think it's going to dry out in this race whatsoever. So this is going to be carnage. We're going to have to be super careful. But we'll talk about our hopes for the race and what we're going to have to do in just a moment. Let's look at the grid for this one. Mark Webber takes pole, his first for quite a while, ahead of championship protagonist Lewis Hamilton. Buttons in third, Perez is fourth, with Grosjean and Schumacher fifth and sixth. Championship leader Alonso down in seventh. There's Vettel, Kobayashi and Rosberg. Grosjean in fifth. Hopefully there won't be any repeat of the real world 2012 Belgian Grand Prix. Massa's 11th, not making it out of Q2 once again, along with Hulkenberg and Raikkonen. Maldonado in 14th, and it's Senna, Verne, Ricciardo. Di Resta dropped out in Q1 with us. Then it's Glock, Kovalainen there. We are 21st, ahead of De La Rosa, Peak and Petrov. And yeah, full wet tyres, full wet conditions. I don't think we're going to get into inters or dries. So there's still going to be a stop anyway. These tyres on this game won't last 22 laps. I don't think they'd last 22 laps anyway. They might. I don't know. We'll see. But we're starting down in 21st. And as we saw in Hungary last time out, and even in Silverstone before, wet weather conditions are very, very tricky on F1 2012, to a point where it's going to be a battle, I think, to even maintain our position. We have to set an objective to beat the other new teams. I think that's the only thing we can do. So P19 is what we're looking for, once again. But it's going to be a battle, I think, to not finish 24th. And even though this is Belgium in the wet, I still don't think we're going to go the full distance. I feel like we could get lapped here. But I'm stalling because I don't want to drive this place in the wet. But we're going to have to. So let's head to the grid for the 2012 Belgian Grand Prix. There's Webber, Hamilton next to him, Button just behind. We're way down there. There we are. And there's De La Rosa next to us. Got to try and ease it off the line here, I think. The source.
You were expected to be in a higher grip position than this, so let's push hard on the first few laps and move up a few places.
Ready with the same pep talk he gave me in the last round. But away we go. I was about to say the source is going to be treacherous, but we ease it off the line there in these conditions, and we'll get on the brakes. There's a gap there, just, which we'll use to our advantage to move up to P15.
So we don't have to use both dry compounds.
Leonardo's staying on our inside as we head to Eau Rouge Ravion. We're going to have to back it off a little, but not too much, because then we can get past Kovalainen and Ricciardo. Everybody's struggling up the hill. We can barely see a thing as we hit the Kemmel Straight. We're to P13. Too bad. Already the lead group have got away. There's a yellow flag. I think somebody's gone off behind us. So we nearly go into the back of Kamui Kobayashi, but avoid him. Not a bad start at all. Little gap to Ricciardo behind us. Actually feeling okay in these conditions on lap one. So we get the Stavolo. Stamp on the brakes maybe a little too hard and drift sideways. That allows Ricciardo through. Maldonado all over the back of us, swarming all over the back of us. Just about hold the Williams off, so we've dropped to P14, but it's still an improvement from where we started.
It seems everyone's complaining about the track conditions. Keep your focus.
And lap 1 in 14th. I don't think we're getting dry conditions or even intermediate conditions here. As able to just hold Maldonado off on the Camel Straight. And then we lose it. Two spots, we're now behind Jean-Eric Verne. Wide at Pouan. We'll lose another spot, this time to Senna. Pedro now behind us. Beaten us 3 times this season. Feels like it could be a 4th if we can't get to grips with driving in these conditions quickly. We had for most of lap 1 and then it just all unravelled from Stavolo. Somebody's way off the back though. Somebody's had an incident. Obviously no DRS in weather like this. That was off the back. It was way off the back, but I think there's been an incident into... Oh, there's been an incident at the top of the hill. Whoa, the two Williams off. Senna reversing across the track. Hulkenberg's out. Somebody else is out. We're up to 13th.
You're coming up to one of the Ferraris.
Alonso's the man in front of us. What has happened? Because Kobayashi's moving slowly. I think he's maybe missing a front wing. But he is. We have to round him. We're up to P12. All gone wrong for a few people. Hulkenberg and Massa, who are out. De Resta's the man that's way off the back of the field. We're now 2 places off the points. We're going to 21 now. Somebody else has gone. I wonder if that's Kobayashi eventually just pulling off the side. He was cruising along with no front wing. No, it was Perez. Perez is out and we are up to 11th. We lost 3 already in De Resta. You can just see him now at the back end of the circuit as Maldonado comes from nowhere. Trying to recover after an incident with his teammate as we go back at the inside at Lecon. There's De Resta that's just heading up to La Source. No, that's Kobayashi, I think, in the pits. De La Rosa's just, De Resta, sorry, just heading through the bus stop on the mini-map. And here we are, all the way up at X. Run wide, grab a little bit of gravel. Maldonado's going to attack, I was going to say Maldonado's not going to attempt to go around the outside of Blanchimont. That would have been an accident. Another yellow flag. Somebody going slowly up the Camel Straight. Bits of front wing, that was a Lotus front wing. Oh, Maldonado's trying around the outside. It's Romain Grosjean who's going slowly. And we should catch and pass the Frenchman. There is Romain Grosjean. Further than his real life counterpart. Just dive up the inside. Through we go. We're into the top 10. Hamilton's down to 9th, so he must have been caught in it.
10 places above our race prediction. Let's try to hang on to this.
Really hoping Maldonado would get caught behind Grosjean for a bit, but not to be. But Hamilton is literally just there. So he must have lost his front wing as well. We'll go round the outside at Corbe Paul Frere. They'll hold Maldonado up for me for a minute. We're into the top 10. We're up to 9th.
Well above where we expected to be.
The AI doing their best at the moment to throw it away as Vern has now slipped to 8th. There's Alonso in front of us, I think.
We've had a look and we
John-Eric
think
Vern might be in.
pit within the next 5 laps.
Is he in already? I don't think he is. You can see the leaders, Webber and that, up at Bruxelles, the hairpin, up at the top end of the circuit as we're going through the source, so we probably will get lapped today, which is fine by me. If I'm still sat in the top 10, one less lap to have to defend. Maldonado is going to think about it to the inside. We'll hold him off. Pretty sure I just saw more bits of front wing at the top of the hill, and Alonso's now fallen behind Vern. I wonder if Fernando Alonso's picked up damage, because Hamilton has, which is going to cost him in his championship fight at the moment. And Alonso not doing much better, but doesn't appear to be falling too far off, so I think he has lost a bit of front wing. It's only a bit, as we run wide at P1 again. That will allow Maldonado through. There he goes. Fend into the chicane here.
You've dropped to 10th position. 10th position.
Maldonado should, I think, get away. The curb. Trying to stay with him into Stavolo. That's going to cost us huge amounts of time. We're up to 9th. Rosberg's out. We're back up to the back into the points more securely. Because all of a sudden we just appeared up in 9th and Rosberg dropped behind us. The Mercedes is out. Raikkonen's going to be on our tail pretty much immediately as we drift wide into Stavolo again. Just lost my rhythm at the moment. Maybe the AI have stopped having their incidents for now. They do appear to have all spread out a little bit. Most of the... all over the shop there. Most of the cars that are all together are actually behind us. We've got Della Rosa in 12th as Raikkonen goes to our outside up the Camel Straight. Petrov's the man in 11th, so we've got to be really careful to not fall out the points. That will give Caterham points. We don't really want to do that, even if they are 15 points behind us at the moment.
We think the car behind is running on full revs. He's trying to close the gap.
Again, the AI trying to the outside there as I move to take the race in line. Just about hold Kimi off again. Alonso, the man in front of him. That's not Maldonado, sorry, I think it's Alonso and Vern. Just heading up the Camel Straight together. Maldonado on his own. 4 points for the Venezuelan. I know he's a bit of a meme, but he did show flashes of pace in his career. His AI counterpart seems to also have that sort of propensity, a bit of flash of pace here and there. Almost on the podium in Hungary. As Raikkonen clean high this time. Can we get him? They can't. We try to go around the outside. Tip it in maybe a little too hard. There's contact. And Raikkonen bounces off the wall, and there we go.
Drive-through penalty for unsportsmanlike behaviour. There's nothing we can do about it now. Stay
Drive-through
focused
to
and
serve.
pit in the next 3 laps.
On the lap we're supposed to pit. Fantastic. I think that's ruined our chances of points. Entry's going to be awful in these conditions, but we managed to get it in. Raikkonen's in behind us. We'll, I'd assume, serve our drive-through. Yeah, pit crew aren't out, so we'll serve our drive-through. Rosa's coming in. We're going to P10 anyway. I think it's Petrov staying out. P9 just ahead of Senna, who's I'd assume not pitted, well no he would have because he had that incident. Well, tyres look okay, if I'm honest. As Senna goes by.
Pedro is peeling off into the pit.
Drifting through Stalla though, Raikkonen's going to come flying around the corner.
Don't forget, pit in this lap.
Tyres do look okay. And they're wet tyres, they should. Should go the distance. Back up to P9. As I'd assume Senna in? Question mark? Yeah, Senna's in. Maldonado is back up ahead of us. So that's P9. What I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to see if I can run these tyres to the end. Raikkonen will go clean around the outside of us this time. Now just a case of pitting in. I don't know if I'm going to have enough to stay in front of Bruno Senna. What I really want is to hold on to 10th.
Remember to pit this lap. We need you to get some heat into the brakes. Brake hard into the next couple of corners.
I'm going to bail. We're going to bail now. It says we'll rejoin in 13th, so still outside the points. But there goes Senna, there goes Hamilton. Hopefully Petrov quite a ways back. So we might jump out in 12th. We're just getting to the bus stop. There we go. Yeah.
Watch out for traffic as you rejoin the track.
They're only just getting through the bus stop, so we'll come out P12. Which means if Senna and Hamilton are coming together, we'll get back into the top 10. Really just hoping that the AI have issues. In doing so, take each other out, which we've seen it already this race. No, there are people getting laps behind us. A long circuit this one. Again, wide at Puon, you hit that curve, that's it, you're stuck. Cars immediately behind us getting laps, so we might get laps in this one. Getting a penalty with through contact with Raikkonen, has that cost us points? Hard to say at the moment. At the moment it has, but enough time in this race, especially with leaders lapping people. The rest is now all of a sudden up to 13th. Maybe he's taking advantage of Petrov being lapped. We've got somebody a lot quicker behind us as we get round on the wrong. Surely he's going to be desperate to get through Bruno Senna, right? Just to at least keep scoring points, because Webber's getting the full whack at the moment. Alonso also in the points. He was only about 7th or 8th, but that might have changed through the pits. I think the conditions are going to change.
Conditions. Let the car immediately behind through. You're not racing him.
Out wide for Mark Webber. And we're on the inside because he just doesn't want to go through. Come on, Mark. Come on, Mark. We're off the road.
Back up to speed. Wave blue conditions.
It's going to
no
cost
longer
us
apply.
huge amounts of time. Webber through. Gap down to 4.
We need to keep up the pace. The gap to the car behind is 4 seconds.
I mean, no, we're not going the full distance here, which might be something, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
We think the car behind
keep the
is
rest
running
of
on
behind.
full revs. He's trying to close the gap.
And there he is. Not the only one, but I don't know if that's cars going to lap, or whether that's cars fighting with us. This is going to be honest by the time we hit the camel straight for the next lap, I think. The prayers of a couple more retirements are going to go unanswered as well. drift through the bus stop. That's going to mean De Resta's right there. There goes De Resta. Kovalainen's next. He's 27 seconds back though, so we should at least stay ahead of Kovalainen. I think I'll go around the outside of De Resta, but we know what happened with Raikkonen earlier on. We're down to 13th. I think this is probably, as long as we keep it pointing in the right direction, probably where we're going to finish. I don't know even if we'd not got the penalty with Raikkonen, if we'd managed to hold on to the points. Everybody behind us, or everybody immediately behind us, so much faster. Just where they got caught up in earlier incidents and were making their way back through.
You need to let the car behind you past. He's not racing you for position.
Button and Schumacher fighting for second at the moment.
He's trying to create a gap. He's running full revs.
Back off along the start-finish straight and let them through. Let them continue their battle. He says we're going to have to go wide at the source for Schumacher to go. Come on, Michael. There we go. Cost Schumacher time in that battle, although I did everything I could to stay out of his way. Carnage filled early doors, but the AI settled down thereafter. As we little half spin, that'll let Vettel through at least.
Your front wing's taken some slight damage. Stay out unless it's causing you problems.
Another wet race in Belgium. I think we had a mixed conditions one in 2011, and it was a wild affair as well. It all kind of settled down after we picked up that penalty for the contact with Raikkonen. If we'd held on to points if we hadn't got that and pitted in with everybody else. Raikkonen, Senna, Hamilton, De Resta so much faster behind us. About 6-7 seconds off the pace consistently all the way through, or just taking it steady with anything else. I think not wanting to make major mistakes. Final lap here.
Looks like this is going to be your finishing position, so let's make sure to keep it clean and bring the car home safely.
Exactly what Andy said, let's try and bring it home safe. We're about 20 seconds clear of Kovalainen. I don't think we're going to see any more retirements at the end of this one. Even with Button and Schumacher fighting hard up ahead of us. They're a lap clear now, so they just as we run wide through Radion. So they just stay in front of us is what I was about to say. It's been a fairly eventful race. We had a poor qualifying. I wasn't looking forward to driving this place in the wet. The wet conditions in these earlier Cody's games are just treacherous. It's a bit of an easier time of it in the modern ones, I think. Stayed fairly mistake-free, a couple of drifts and that little mini half spin, and unfortunately that penalty with Raikkonen. I'd love to get through a race without the penalty. We haven't had one since Spain, you know. See, a mistake for crossing the white line in Hungary, getting a penalty for that. Getting a penalty for our contact with Raikkonen. Yeah, it was a bit of a shot to nothing, but Mark Webber takes the victory, which should draw him right back into this championship fight with Hamilton in 11th and Alonso down the tail end of the top 10. We're going to come home P13. There's an opportunity for points, but I don't think we were ever going to hold on.
Cold. We need to get some heat into them. Brake hard in the next few corners.
Come through the bus stop. At least finally have a decent result after a few bad races. P13. There we have it. 13th place in the end. At the top end of things, Webber wins from Button just ahead of Schumacher. Vettel in 4th. Alonso ends up 5th, so we'll pick up some points. Ricciardo and Verne both score, which will probably see them jump HRT now. Maldonado 8th, Raikkonen in 9th in the end, Senna 10th. Hamilton managed to jump De Resta to finish 11th, but that's outside the points. De Resta's 12th, there we are, 13th ahead of Kovalainen and Petrov, who in turn beat Grosjean and Kobayashi, who had a bit of a bad day with incidents. Then it's Della Rosa, Glock and Peak. Nico Rosberg, Sergio Perez, Nico Hulkenberg and Felipe Massa all do not finish after a bit of a chaos-filled opening to the race. Bits of front wing, cars going off, cars moving slowly. It was quite chaotic early doors. It settled down at the end. What does that mean, though? For the stand-ins, Fernando Alonso now leads by 11 points from Lewis Hamilton. Webber a further 30 back. He jumps Jenson Button into 3rd, who's 4 points behind him. Vettel, 89 points off, still hasn't passed the 100-point mark. It's still quite the uphill battle, I think, for him to try and retain his title. Grosjean moves a couple more points ahead of Raikkonen, or stays a couple of points ahead of Raikkonen. Rosberg is in 8th, and it's Maldonado 9th, Felipe Massa 10th. Schumacher, Perez and Kobayashi stay where they are. We remain ahead of Hulkenberg in 14th by a point, but we're now only 3 clear of Ricciardo and 5 clear of Verne. They're hunting us down to try and knock us down to 17th. De Resta in 18th, and it's Senna, Kovalainen, Petrov, Della Rosa, Glock, Peak and Kartikeyan end off the stand-ins. Pedro falls behind Vitaly Petrov, which means Caterham looking like the best of the worst, as it were, if it wasn't for our podium in Malaysia. In the constructors, as expected, we fall to P10, 4 points behind Force India, and 7 behind Toro Rosso, who had a great double-point score today. Vodafone, McLaren, Mercedes. Top of the stand-in, 74 clear of Red Bull, who jumped Ferrari by 4 points. Lotus stay 4th ahead of Mercedes, and it's Williams ahead of Sauber by a point. Then, as I say, Toro Rosso, who jumped both us and Force India. We're in 10th, but we remain ahead of Caterham and Marussia by 15 points because they are yet to score. And a wet Belgian Grand Prix comes to an end. And could we have taken points here? Potentially. Potentially could have taken points, but I think we just wouldn't have had the pace even after the pit stops. I think we would have had Raikkonen see us in his rear view, and then I think we would have also had the likes of Senna, Hamilton and De Resta catch and pass us anyway. So 13th in a race like that is still a pretty good result. We managed to avoid the 2 Williams, who were sideways at the top of Eau Rouge and Raidillon, and managed to kind of survive the carnage fairly incident-free, but still another penalty on the board. We've really got to try and curtail that as the season comes to a close. One more European race left for HRT, that in Monza. That's the next one. But thank you so much for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Do all the good stuff. Hope you enjoyed that one as much as it was fun for me to drive. I shall see you for the next one. Take care. Bye for now.